Coach,
What's up, Nate? How you doing, man?
how's it going?
Everything is good.
Appreciate
Just
you, man.
yeah, no problem. Happy
What
to
are
do
you
it.
up to today?
Back at home right now. Just was doing some work earlier, cutting up some practice stuff for our coaches to watch, so we can have it ready to go for next week. But yeah, just
Nice.
yeah, all
Did you
good.
guys work out this week?
Yeah, so we're um, following all the protocols, but yeah, we're able to get on the court with our guys, which is good. We're limiting the number of people, and
Right.
like some things are a little different.
Yeah.
Managers are not as involved. Trying to limit just the crossover between as many people as we can. But
hmm
yeah, we're doing our best, so hanging in there.
Cool, cool. So this is your first year as video coordinator, but what is it? Your third at Nova?
So I just finished my first year as VC. So this will be my second and my fourth total year. So I was 2 years as a GA. Last year was my first year as video coordinator. Now this is my second year. So yeah, going into year four.
Nice, nice. So you played at Harvard, correct?
Yep.
How was that?
It was great. My coach, Tommy Amker, was really one of the best people around. He's, the reason I was probably going to want to coach probably around my junior year of college. And he was really the reason that I wanted to be to coach in college rather than try to pursue something in the NBA or G League, just because the
Right.
relationship that I built with him is something that I want, to be able to replicate with my own players one day. He was just so easy to connect with, like really, really molded, not just me, all my teammates into just being like really good people, good men, like, and he was the ultimate leader. He was the ultimate, not just in basketball for us. He was on campus, in the administration, academics. He was just really, really great with all that stuff. And so I had a great role model in him, and that was the reason why I wanted to be in college. So I had a great experience there.
Cool. So you you graduated what year from college?
2017.
Okay. So what was your recruitment like out of high school?
So early on, it was a lot of small, high academic schools, and I knew I wanted to probably go somewhere that was um, really good academically. I wanted to use basketball
Mhm.
as a vehicle for that. So early on in my high school career, it was a lot of schools like U Chicago, Washington and Lee, MIT, good high academic D3 schools.
Right.
And then later on, as I started going to more camps and stuff, I would come out. I grew up in Texas, so I would come out to the East Coast for hoop group and different elite camps and stuff. And I started to get a little interest in the Ivy League, Columbia and West Point a little bit. And so I got to the point where I was trying to sell myself to everyone. I
Right.
was, not highly recruited. So I was doing a lot of active work, sending stuff
Yep.
out and emailing coaches, staying in touch with people. It's funny because some of the relationships I've built through that, I still have today. Kyle Smith, who's the head coach of Washington State, was at Columbia at the time. And I was, emailing him all the time. And he was, ended up not working out. They took another point guard. But just the fact that got to know him through that process and then through playing there. And one of his assistants was just this, guy who was at a small college. He played at a small college, coached Division III, ended up at Columbia. And then 8 years later is the GM of the Cavaliers, Kobe Altman. So it's just funny the people that you meet when you're, really actively seeking out. You don't know who's going to be
Yeah.
where, but so yeah. So long story short, I ended up playing, pretty well at Harvard's camp, and went back for my senior year, did the same thing, played there. They were interested, but they were obviously recruiting some people, and I was fortunate. One of my favorite players of all time now, because of this, was Nigel Williams-Goss, because he was down to Washington, and Harvard ended up going to Washington.
Right.
They needed a point guard, so they took me, which was, so I owe Nigel a lot of thanks for going there, and he obviously has had a great career. But yeah, so that was kind of the story, and it worked out. And if that hadn't worked out, I was thinking about maybe walking on somewhere at a bigger school and just trying to do that route. But no, I was really fortunate. Guy named Yanni Huffnagel was the assistant that recruited me and really got it done. So he's another person that I really owe a lot of thanks to.
That's awesome. So obviously basketball runs in the blood. I always see your pops on the TV, ESPN.
Hmm.
Did you kind of talk about growing up? Because my dad was also a coach, so I was living in the gym, and I'm sure you were
Yeah.
the same way. How
Yeah,
was
no,
that?
definitely. Yeah. From earliest I can remember was probably when my dad was at St. John's in the late 90s, and he had Felipe Lopez and Zenon Hamilton, Ron Artest. He had a couple guys that were NBA players. And so that was probably my earliest memory of being around the gym and seeing those guys, being at the Garden. I was probably 3 or 4. That was probably my earliest basketball memory. But yeah, just being around it, seeing the life that he gets to live, and going from coaching now to broadcasting, and just the people. Now that he's kind of like the neutral guy,
Yeah.
he kind of gets to be a mentor to a lot of people, or at least a sounding board to his peers. So he'll have a lot of coaches, mid-season calling him for advice on different things, and he loves it because he gets to really give back. And these are people that are, giants in the game, that are,
Yeah.
Power 5 coaches, and people that it's cool to see that they respect him enough to ask for his opinion on things. And so to have that built in for me as a mentor, as my dad for the last 25 years, has been really a blessing that I'm, can't overstate. It's really cool to just be able to call him, and I'll call my mom and we'll talk about life and this and that and how's my apartment and blah, blah, blah. And call my dad and we're just talking about how to guard pick and roll,
Right.
different pick and roll actions and things that I saw in
Yeah.
the Heat game last night. So it's been awesome. He's great basketball mind. And like I said, I can't overstate how fortunate I've been to have someone to have as like a mentor like that.
Yes. See, I grew up in a high school gym, not in the Garden.
Yeah.
So you have a brother too, right?
Yeah. My older brother, James,
In
he's
the
3 years
college
older than I
basketball
am.
world?
No, so he was a walk-on at Oklahoma. A lot of my extended family went to OU, and he fell in love with the school. He actually Jeff Capel was the one that gave him the okay to walk on, and then when Lon Kruger got the job after my brother's senior year of high school, Lon agreed to take him as well, and so he was there for 4 years. Played with a lot of really good players. Buddy Hield was there. Ryan Spangler. They had some really good teams there. And then he's made his way from working in the G League, worked at Indiana for Tom Crean, back to the G League, is now with the Orlando Magic as player development video guy. So he's a grinder. He's worked for Jeff Van Gundy with USA Basketball. He's just developed a really good reputation for himself just as a grinder, someone that's reliable and knows the game. So he's kind of on the trajectory I figured he would be on, and he's gonna continue to be successful.
Awesome. So obviously, Villanova, one of, if not the most respected team in the country as far as basketball programs. How is that going to work every day, working for Jay Wright, and just being around one of the best programs in the country?
Yeah, it's really cool. You show up every day. It's really the people that make it. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but at the end of the day, you're surrounded by from the top level, from even beyond Coach Wright, from our athletic director and our president, all the way down to our managers and our walk-ons, and everyone from top to bottom is just really quality people. And it stems a lot from what Coach Wright demands and expects from us. But also just the kind of kids that we're able to recruit that really get it. They get what we're about. We're not tricking anyone into coming to Villanova. They know what it is. They have the kind of character where they not only accept it, but they embrace it. And so when you get talented kids that have that mentality, that want to be really good and they want to be pushed and they want to do it the right way, you get a really cool end result, which is kind of the success that we've been able to have. But it's really, really fortunate to be here and have really good assistant coaches, really good, obviously great head coach, and then the players are just a dream to work with. So really lucky.
As video coordinator, kind of talk about and tell my audience what your role is, kind of what you do on a daily basis.
Definitely. Yeah. So as a GA, I kind of was touching a little bit of everything. That's just kind of the nature of the role. I think pretty much everywhere. You're on the court, you're doing meals, you're doing travel stuff, you're, whatever. So, and part of that was I learned how to cut up video, and it wasn't my main responsibility, but it was stuff that you kind of pick up on, Photoshop, things like that. So it's just all sorts of random stuff. Yeah. So as video coordinator, it definitely has narrowed my role a little bit. It's good. It's great because I'm watching a lot of tape. I'm able to learn a lot of basketball from it, just watching different teams, looking for different actions. But yeah, working very closely with our assistant coaches, trying to, help them organize scout film, watching opponents, watching our previous games, cutting up our practices, just looking for concepts and tendencies and things like that has really helped me, just learn the game even more. So that's been a great part of it. I would say on a day-to-day, during the season, a lot of my day is taken up with opponent scouting, like future scouts. So, sourcing, let's say it's Creighton, let's say, yep. Sourcing their last 5 games, making sure that all the materials are ready, cutting up, different player clips, things like that. Just getting everything to the assistants that they would need. Our assistants have all been the video coordinator at Villanova, so they have experience doing it. So fortunate that they, are pretty self-sufficient. They do a great job on that on their own, but it's always good to be on top of this stuff and be able to, now that I'm in year 2 and year 4 in the program, being able to anticipate a little better is something that, I think is a good thing to have through experience, now that I'm able to know their styles, know what each guy likes, doesn't like. But yeah, so it's a lot of watching film, a lot of just kind of, you learn how to figure out what's going to be needed before it's needed. I think that's a big part of it as well.
Nice. So I see you do a podcast too with Coach Wright. Yeah, so I kind of help with Mike Sheridan, who's our SID. We kind of help put that together. So before we had it all on a sound, like a mixer with microphones and all the stuff that we did in Coach's office, which was great because it would always be, whoever popped in that day. It might be, we had Randy Foy come on one time just because he happened to show up that day. We've had Ryan Arch. We've had, nice. All sorts of people that have come back that are just on campus, and Coach Wright's like, hey, let's do a podcast. But we've been able to widen our pool of guests because of, going now to Zoom, which is, how pretty much all the podcasts are now. We've been able to widen our pool of guests. We had Mark Few on the other day. I think we're, I don't know if this is announced yet, so I don't know if I should say it, but I think we're going to have Steve Kerr on pretty soon. So obviously you have a damn good job right now. And I'm just curious, what do you want to accomplish in your future with basketball? Yeah, I think that's a good question for anyone to ask themselves, especially in coaching, whether or not it's, do I want to be in college? Do I want to be in the NBA? What's the path like? Would I have to go to the G League? Should I be in high school? Should I be overseas? So for me, I'm really comfortable at the college level. I love being around the players, and my brother, has worked in the NBA for the last 4 or 5 years. So he's got that experience. And that's not something I would ever rule out, but I love being around kids when they're 18 to 22. You're kind of, and this is what I'm fortunate to be at Villanova. We, our coaches do a really good job with player development and, being able to kind of mold these kids into what they're going to be the rest of their lives, not just as players, but as people. I think when you get to the NBA, you bring a guy in from, free agency or whatever it is. He is who he is, and right. You work with him, and you want to help him improve. But that guy kind of is who he is, so you kind of you have a finished product almost. In college, these kids are really just like balls of clay that you kind of get to mold, as building their character, building their habits, work habits, work ethic, how they play, how they perform, all that stuff, how they think. So that's kind of what I see for myself. So ultimately the goal would be to be a college head coach. And obviously, yeah, like you said, I'm in a great place to continue to learn under, future Hall of Fame coach and really, really good staff, really, really good players. So never know what's going to happen down the line, but ultimately I'm trying to prepare myself to be in that position to be a head coach one day, but lots of twists and turns on that path. What is your best experience on the Villanova bench so far? Man, the easy answer would be, 2018 with the national championship. But since that's too easy, I'm trying to think of another one.
let's see. I'm trying to think of some of our best games.
There's so many.
Yeah, the Kansas game this year at home was really cool. You know, that was just an intense battle. Those guys are so good. You know, Devin Dotson and
Yeah.
Doak and all those guys. And, you know, we've had great battles with Kansas in the past, you know, over the past decade. But being able to, you know, come back, we think we were down 4 with like a minute to go and, you know, got a couple baskets and ended up winning that game in front of our home crowd at Wells Fargo, you know, 20,000 or whatever it was. That was definitely one of the best experiences. If not, you know, every time we get to play in the Garden, and, you know, we've been fortunate to win 2 Big East tournaments while I've been here, and, you know, the third was canceled. So playing in the Garden is another thing that it never gets old. You know, walking out of the tunnel into the Garden is really cool.
Well, thanks, man, so much for coming on here. Really do appreciate it, and hope to stay in touch.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, happy to do it. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, if there's any questions you have or anything that you need from me, don't hesitate to reach out.